Boris Johnson was out and about doing various interviews, opening up very sore wounds, certainly about COVID, rewriting history in the hope that he can, in some ways, create a new false narrative about his legacy. Will this work? Will he manage to convince the Conservative Party, who he's largely talking to, that they can put behind his misdemeanours and he can, once again, try and aim to become Prime Minister?
One, why are we listening to anything that Boris Johnson's saying? This guy is failed on everything he tried at Prime Minister, and he's trying to flog a book, so he's just saying any sort of controversial thing to try and flog his book. So let's, we're talking about trying to get rid of people's fundamental rights so Boris Johnson can make another couple of quid, which, that's really the context for this.
That's not quite fair. There's no real evidence that he's doing that to flog his book.
Well, he's got a book coming out next week, and suddenly he's started saying every sort of controversial thing he can think of, including we're going to invade the Netherlands. So, let's be realistic about what's going on here.
The absolute master of lies. Boris Johnson convinced enough people in Britain to believe that the EU were to blame for all of our problems. Now he's hoping that people will believe that Sue Gray is the main reason why he was ousted from number 10. All of it, of course, are lies.
Who investigated this thing? Why don't you tell our viewers who investigated it?
I don't want to go down the avenue. No, Sue Gray.
And who is, just to remind our viewers who Sue Gray is.
Sue Gray is a leading civil servant.
What post does she currently hold?
We're not going down this road.
Why not?
Because no one disputes the essential facts. I asked you about Martin Reynolds inviting 100 people.
I will tell our viewers what post Sue Gray currently
I know everyone knows what Sue Gray does.
I'm going to tell them.
This is unfair on Sue Gray, who is not here to defend herself. You are here to defend yourself, so I'm making.
I'm so sorry. Well, let me just.
I'm asking the questions on behalf of our viewers.
She is the chief of staff of the leader.
Story. You talk about the frankness in Unleashed. Which was your greater lie? Lying about proroguing Parliament to the Queen, or lying to Parliament about the parties?
But so neither, because if you look at on the
Let me read you what Baroness Hale said,
Parliament. What I said in Parliament.
For what?
I don't think about parties in number 10. Do you really think that people in number 10,
which was the greater lie, lying to the Queen or lying to Parliament?
Since neither of them were a liar, there was no lie.
Okay, to the Queen, the effect of frustrating or preventing the ability of Parliament was unlawful, void, and should be quashed, said Baroness Hale.
And she was totally wrong.
You deliberately misled the House and did so repeatedly.
Yeah,
You've been so which is the greater lie?
They were both neither. Because
you don't accept that you lied.
No, I certainly don't. So on the first, on the so-called parties in number 10, which, anybody who thinks that I was partying, having a knees-ups in number 10.
Pictures from an event inside number 10 that took place on the 13th of November 2020. The Prime Minister toasts his departing Director of Communications, Lee Kane. In a series of photos, 8 people are visible without counting the photographer. Indoor gatherings were limited to 2 people at the time during the second national lockdown, unless a gathering was reasonably necessary for work purposes. Number 10.
Anyone thinks that civil servants were setting out to break the rules, and we all knew
Mr. Johnson, we saw the trolley loads of Prosecco being taken in from the local co-op or Sainsbury's.
Did you see a trolley load of Prosecco?
Yes, they went out and got them like those airbags.
You actually have footage of a trolley load of Prosecco?
I don't, but ITV or what BBC has. Yes, there is they were taking trolley loads of booze in. Why am I telling you that?
Because I think you're talking total tripe. I don't think there is any such footage.
You don't know about the parties when I understand your own son's swing was broken.
Sorry.
You're aware of that party?
Listen, I think
you are because of the way you've changed.
No, what I can tell you is that I don't believe for a second that officials thought they were breaking the rules, nor do I think they were setting out to break the rules. Who bought the karaoke machine?
I have no idea.
Well, I tell you who.
Sue Gray?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
She bought the karaoke.
I think she certainly footage or a picture of her using the blooming thing. I never saw it. By the way, who was in charge of the Cabinet Office where most of the parties took place? Would you like to identify to our listeners who was the second permanent secretary?
I'm assuming you're directing me towards Sue Gray.
I am. She was second permanent secretary of the Cabinet Office.
Acknowledging what had happened, acknowledging that some of it was a symptom of the situation, being honest about the fact that actually I would find it hard to pick a one day when the regulations were followed properly inside that building. And I know that because, as I've said in my statement, there was one meeting where we absolutely adhered to the guidance to the letter, and that was the Cabinet meeting, and everybody moaned about it, moaned and tried to change it repeatedly. So I know how exceptional it was to really, really, really properly follow the guidance. And I think that in retrospect, obviously, all sorts of things were wrong. And my profound regret is for the damage that's been caused to so many people because of it, as well as just the mortifying experience of seeing what that looks like and how rightly offended everybody is in retrospect.
Castle. And again, quoting from the book.
All fully covered.
And I'm quoting directly Mr. Johnson.
Blow by blow.
Cummings, his story was so odd and so complicated, I decided it must be true. You've held a number of jobs in journalism. You've clearly never been a news editor, have you? You've never been a news editor if you believe what you're talking. You're the Prime Minister.
How often
his story is so odd and so complicated. It must be true.
But how often have you made that judgment on them as a news editor, or was when you were running the great Ferrari's Newswire
news agency?
Yeah. You must. You
no,
there
because
are some
normally
stories.
If it's not true. You're not a copper, are you?
No, some stories.
Again, it's judgment. Again, isn't it?
Some stories have. There's something so weird about them, you decide there's no alternative, but I think they must be true. Now, I then did subsequently learn other things that caused me to question that.
You don't believe him now, do you?
Look, I mean...
Do you believe him now?
It's irrelevant.
No, it's not. Do you believe his story about Barnard Castle now?
No, I don't really, no, because I think it turned out that it was, it was one of his family's birthday that day and blah, blah, fish cakes. But, that's...
So you were duped?
Look, I think that people have different strengths at different times in government. And so some of the people that you've just mentioned, I can't remember who they
Rishi
were.
Sunak, Chris Pincher, and Dominic Cummings.
So during the
homicidal
Brexit,
maniacs?
During the Brexit period when we had to get the right exit from the EU, they were very solid. And we had a very tough time.
All right.
And so you mentioned the prorogation judgment where you said that I'd misled the Queen.
I didn't. Baroness Hale did.
No, well, okay.
Slightly more important than a radio presenter. Baroness Hale. You wanted again. The effect of frustrating or preventing the ability of Parliament, it is unlawful, void, and should be quashed.
Well, I think she was talking total twaddle, and you will discover that in the pages of Unleashed. Because what she said is very, very important. A lot of people think this. A lot of people think, oh my God, that monster Johnson, he prorogued Parliament in order to, to frustrate, in order to, stop, make sure we can leave the European Union or whatever. Actually, what I did, we'd had the longest sitting Parliament since the Civil War.
Right.
We would seriously since Cromwell. Yes. We were due a Queen's speech anyway. We were by what I did. We only lost between 5 and 7 sitting days of Parliament, depending on how you calculated it. I mean, and what the Supreme Court said was, I'm afraid, and I got utmost respect for the legal profession, but it was complete tripe because they said that I was depriving Parliament of the opportunity to talk about Brexit. And on the contrary, they had 3 years, more than 3 years to talk about Brexit, and they had failed to deliver it.
I don't want to say too long.
And then after, but I want to finish this point because people don't read Unleashed. After everybody was forced back into Parliament by Baroness Hale and her judgment, do you think they actually came up with a single novel, interesting thought about Brexit?
Mr. Johnson,
they did not.
The Brexit that we now have, how many points out of 10 would you give it? The Brexit we have now.
It's 10 out of 10 for constitutional purity. In terms of delivering yet for the country, well, clearly it's going to take time before
so what is it, 5, 4?
delivers on its potential. I think if I give it 10 out of 10 for what it was enabled us to do during the pandemic, and that was the biggest problem I had during my time in government. and I think the biggest crisis this country has faced.
Input down 15%, GDP down 3.8%, only 9% of people say it's gone well.
Why is the UK economy outperformed Germany? Germany, last time I looked, Germany is a member of the EU. Italy is a member of the EU.
So my point's out of 10. What would it be? 10 for constitutional matters?
I think the problem is not with the decision itself. It's not even with the implementation of the decision. The problem is...
Tell that to people stuck at Dover.
The problem is
tell that
with...
to musicians who can't move around.
The problem is
Europe.
with the use we make of it right now and the championing of Brexit. And I don't think we do enough.
You're going to give me a score? 4 out of 10?
No.
3?
I think it's better than that. I think it overall. Look, without Brexit,
9? What is it going to be?
Without Brexit,
I'm going to keep saying numbers. 8.
Well, 9. Okay.
9.
But I remember that's how you got me. By the way, that's how you got me to commit to a crime reduction figure. In 2008, do you remember this? You got me. I don't want to. 2008. You said, will you commit to a 20% reduction in crime?
Mm.
And we
and you did.
We did.
Yes, but we're not.
Because you went on LBC. I went on LBC, and then I ever after I had this vulture-like on my shoulder. I had the presence of Ferrari, and we cut the murder rate by 50%, as you will remember, and on Brexit. So things like AUKUS, things like the Ukraine policy, a lot of the things that we're now able to do on biosciences or financial services. Britain can do things differently now that we couldn't do before, and that is a great thing.
We're talking on a solemn...
By the way, we also have the power to control our borders. Plus, we have taken back a lot of cash that was being pointlessly spent.
We must move
by
on
the
because
EU.
I have a limit.
There is no doubt in my mind that Boris Johnson is the worst Prime Minister this country has ever had. Yes, Liz Truss was appalling, but in fairness, Liz Truss, the lettuce, would not have happened had we not had Boris Johnson, who unleashed the most awful Brexit on us, ripping up our partnerships with our friends and neighbours, destroying our economy and clipping our wings, stopping us from being able to work, travel and study in many countries across the EU, and stopping many of our friends coming here to help us run our country. He is despicable, and there is no doubt in my mind that he hopes that he will be able to convince the Tory membership that he is the only man who can beat Keir Starmer in 2029. Given that it's now between Jenrick and Badenoch, I fear there is every possibility that we face that happening over the next couple of years. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe, and you can also hit the notification button and it'll let you know when I post a video.